So, fragrances that evoke thoughts of nostalgia, or that, in my opinion, are iconic. Managed to find a few of them. If you want to know what they are, sit through this short intro, meet me on the other side of it, and we're going to get right into it. Hey, I will see you guys in just 1 second. I promise, sit right there. What's going on, everybody? You guessed it, it is your boy Trey Sense, and we got a little bit of a midweek review, something to get you over the hump. What we're going to talk about today, tonight, this evening, fragrances in my collection that are kind of a mix, but some of them are more nostalgic and some of them are just plain, in my opinion, iconic, meaning that they kind of set a trend, went in a new direction, changed some things in the game. Now, this is just my personal opinion, and this is also limited to my collection. All right, you ready? No further ado, let's get right into it. Let's go with nostalgic. Let's get a nostalgic fragrance out of the way. This fragrance, I'm gonna start here. This fragrance invokes a lot of nostalgia for me. It just takes me back to a simpler time in life, a simpler place in life, a simpler place in time, from the house of Cody. This is a Cody product, and it is Aspen, and you see the levels on that. I reach for this a lot in the winter. Now, this is an any season fragrance, winter, summer, spring, or fall. You can wear this bad boy, but I like it. To me, this is really close to green Irish tweed, more so than cool water. And while we're on the subject of cool water, I didn't put cool water in this video because I seem to put it in a lot of videos that I do like this. Cool water is definitely a nostalgic fragrance, along with Jupe. I could have put it in there. There's several that I could have put in there. I left some of those, first ballot Hall of Famers off because, well, we talk about them a lot. So Jupe, honorable mention. Let's get that out of the way. And cool water, honorable mention. But let's talk about Aspen. This fragrance, to me, I could only imagine it's like being in the Aspen Mountains or being in Aspen. It smells like what it feels like to take a breath of fresh winter air. That coolness, that crispness that you get, that's what I get from this fragrance. A little bit cool, a little bit powdery. I like it a lot. This is one of those fragrances that is low-key, flies under the radar, and women actually like this scent. From the house of Aspen, this just brings back nostalgia for me. Reminds me of late middle school, early high school days, high school years, and things like that. And it just reminds me of the 90s, when things were simpler, before cell phones, just, when everything was just easy breezy, simple, before cars were robots and drove themselves and touch screens, everything. It just takes me back to that place in time. From the house of Cody, or from Cody, it is Aspen. Another one that could have made this list would be the original Tommy Hilfiger. It could have made this list as well, but it didn't. Let me grab this one real quick. This one, to me, is iconic, and it invokes, well, it's more nostalgic than iconic. It could be both. From the house of Burberry, it is Burberry. And you see the levels on this. I love to wear this, and this is another one that is a summertime, wintertime, any time of the year type of fragrance, and it is very sweet. Oh man, that just smells good. And I think this fragrance is a little bit iconic because if you think about the way this fragrance smells, think about smelling Burberry, and then think about smelling fragrances like Dolce & Gabbana the One EDP, and then think about this. And remember, Ludacris said he left the booth smelling like Burberry cologne. This just reminds me of the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, it's just what it reminds me of. Very nostalgic for me. This is a nice, sweet, romantic cuddle. Come here and cuddle with me type of fragrance. I definitely don't see anybody smelling this on you and telling you that you smell bad. It smells good, but it smells like the 90s, but it doesn't smell dated. A nice little pickup. If you've slept on this one all these years and you see this at Burlington or someplace like that, pick up Burberry for men. It's a great scent, very nostalgic for me. And that's one of those, again, nice, sweet, romantic type of fragrances. Good in the winter, good in the summer. Let's go. All right, where are we going next? From the house of Ralph Lauren. Can you guess which one I'm going with? Can you guess which one I'm going with? Another nostalgic fragrance from the house of Polo. It is none other than Polo Sport. And I've had this bottle. Oh, that Burberry is smelling good in here. I've had this fragrance forever. I've went through 2 or 3 bottles of this one. And this one to me is a little bit nostalgic and a little bit iconic, because when I smell fragrances like Percival, I'm instantly reminded of Polo Sport, because it's got that clean, crisp, powdery type of scent. Not a citrus fragrance, not an aquatic, just clean, powdery goodness. And it just reminds me of, you know, back in the day in the 90s, leaving the house polo down. And this is one of those fragrances that I just wanted to spray on. I've went through several bottles of this, and it's still a crowd pleaser and a compliment getter. Is it complex? No, especially not by today's standards. Is it overly sweet? No. Is it an aquatic? No. But I think it paved the way for a lot of those irisy, powdery fragrances that popped up after this one, in my opinion. So I think Polo Sport is both nostalgic and iconic. If you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. Polo Sport, I like that one. That's a little bit of both. This next one, to me, is both nostalgic and iconic. Car Noir. If you do not have this in your collection, even if you just have a small bottle like this, then you don't have this in your collection. I don't know what you're doing. This is one of those fragrances that, let me find a little spot to spray it on, as I just got home from work, so I still have my scent of the day, but you'll have to tune in to next week's fragrance reviews to see what that is. That's just nice. I mean, that's masculinity in a bottle. In a bottle. Classy barbershop. I was thinking about saying barbershop and said whatever I said. I just made up a word. But I like it. I like it, and this just reminds me of high school. All the guys at my high school wore Drakkar. It was just when Drakkar hit, it was one of those fragrances that everybody had to have. All the guys had to have it, and all the girls loved it. And there's a reason that it is still popular today. And I think this is both nostalgic and iconic. I think what makes this fragrance iconic, other than the fact that it is a classic fougere barbershop fragrance, but at the same time it is so smooth and so easy to wear. I have yet to meet a woman, not a little girl, a woman, and say I do fragrance reviews and I like different fragrances and this not come up. This fragrance always comes up, and they always, oh, I love Drakkar. So I'm just saying that to say, guys, you can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on big time names, or fancy names with fancy presentations that I can't even pronounce, or you can keep it basic. You can keep it simple, stupid, and wear something like this and keep some coin in your pocket and still get attention and compliments from the ladies and smell nice and masculine. I like it. I like it. This should be in everybody's collection, Drakkar. Does it smell a little bit dated? I prefer classic as opposed to dated, because you have some of these newer companies like Clive Christensen and Roja and even Zaharoff. They're all remaking their version of the classic barbershop fragrance, and that's all this is. So, I mean, I don't really understand the difference. Yes, the bottle presentation is horrible. Yes, this cheap plastic cap is horrible, but I cannot wear the cap. I can wear the fragrance. So, anyway, think classic barbershop Drakkar. And this is a 1 ounce. It's a 30 ml. And I picked that up on clearance. I had 2 or 3 of those, but I gave one of them away. All right, let's move. This next one I definitely think is, this one to me is more iconic than it is nostalgic. I don't have really a whole lot of memories tied to this one, but to me it's an iconic fragrance, because Well, when I tell you the name of it, think about all the fragrances that came along after this one from the house of Dolce and Gabbana. It is light blue, and this is an old light blue bottle because you see the rubber cap, not the plastic cap. And this one, I think this paved the way for that light, fresh, sweet, almost dropped it, almost unisex type of scent. I think this paved the way for that. Think fragrances like Versace's Manu Fresh and fragrances along that line. I think this is the predecessor. I think this is the one that made those fragrances, or made fragrance companies say, we've got to make a fragrance that smells like Dolce & Gabbana light blue. And just think about how many times this fragrance has been copied, or how many times you can go somewhere and pick up a bottle that looks like this and then spray it and it smells like this, and you think, yeah, that's light blue, you know. Or the blue craze in general. Think about how many blue fragrances was out there before this came along. So that's something to consider. So in my opinion, Dolce & Gabbana light blue is definitely iconic. The newer formulations of light blue I don't think are as good as this one. This one is a lot more masculine than the newer versions. The newer version is honestly should have been marketed for a unisex, and I know a lot of women that wear the male version. As a matter of fact, I bought a lady friend of mine a sample of Dolce & Gabbana light blue. She loved it. So for Valentine's Day, that's what I got her. I picked her up a bottle of Dolce & Gabbana for men. So there you have it, and she loves it. But nonetheless, I do think this is an iconic fragrance because I think it paved the way for that fresh blue, easy, that light blue that just a little bit more than a dumb reach type of scent, a little bit more than an office scent, but something that's very light and not protruding and, you know, just loud and obnoxious. I think this is the fragrance that paved the way for that and made that whole genre of fragrances popular. So in my opinion, Dolce & Gabbana light blue is an iconic fragrance. Not so much nostalgic for me, but for somebody it's nostalgic. For me, it's iconic. Now, ooh, these next ones, boy, they gonna be both nostalgic and iconic. From the house of Calvin Klein. I want to go on a little bit of, no, I'm gonna break them up. From the house of Calvin Klein, Obsession. I wore this the other day and got great performance out of it. 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of longevity, and it just smells good. It just smells good. Spicy, sweet, clean, masculine goodness here. You do pick up on a little bit of clove, I think that is, but it just smells good. It just smells good. Again, this is another one that you can wear any time of the year. I think it's more appropriate for late fall, early winter, and early spring. A little bit cooler weather is what I'm trying to say, but nonetheless, this gets on a hoodie or a sweatshirt or just that type of fabric, it stays forever. And it's just one of those classic Cuddle Me scents. There's a reason they've been making this since the 80s. And again, we talked about Dougie Fresh rapping about his Obsession cologne. It's just nostalgic for me because it takes me back to the late 80s, early 90s, and being in high school. And, you know, this was upscale when I was in high school. If you had, you know, a bottle of Obsession, it was upscale, you know, because we wore a lot of preferred stock and Gravity and things like that. Because, I mean, we didn't really have the bread to, you know, spend on a lot of high-end fragrances. And let's just be honest and face it, wasn't a whole lot of high-end fragrances out back then that the average high school kid could get their hand on. But anyway, yeah, Calvin Klein's Obsession, in my opinion, is both nostalgic and iconic, and I love it and will forever have that in my collection. This next one is definitely iconic. I've had it on and off in my collection. It's not one of my favorite scents. It is one of the more popular fragrances sold, period. And you can't have a fragrance conversation without it coming up. No further ado, from the house of Giorgio Armani, is Aqua Dijo. To me, this one is nowhere near as good as its flankers, whether it's Absolute, Profumo, Profundo, or what is it, Nights? lights, that's one that's on my list to pick up. I like that scent. But nonetheless, this is an iconic fragrance. It does smell really, really good. It's just the performance on me sucks. It absolutely sucks. And I was gifted a bottle of this many, many years ago. I ended up giving it away because I just felt like it didn't perform on me. A friend of mine walked into my store and he had on Bellcam's G. And I said, man, you got on that Aqua dijo, don't you? And he said, he laughed and smiled real big. He said, no, man. I said, what is it? He said, it's that G. And I said, G. He said, man, I got it at Walmart. He went out to his vehicle, got the bottle, and brought it in and showed it to me. I left. This was when Walmart stayed open. This was probably about 2003. I left work, went straight to Walmart, bought me a bottle of G, and that's what I've been wearing ever since. But as a collector / reviewer, you have to have Aqua dijo in your collection. I picked this up from a lady on back when Facebook had like, or maybe it was Let Go. I think it was Let Go. I picked it up on Let Go for like $15 for, this is a 100 ml bottle, as you see where the levels are. And I haven't worn it many times, but I had to have it in my collection because it is just that. It is an iconic fragrance, and working in the public, this is probably one of the most worn fragrances out there. You can pick this up anywhere. Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, which I know one of them is closed. What is it? Rite Aid is no longer in existence. You can still get it at Rite Aid. If there is a Rite Aid, they selling this, but nonetheless, it is an iconic fragrance because it stirred up the whole aquatic craze, and it is again one of the best selling fragrances in the world. One of the best selling fragrances in the world, and it does smell good. From the house of Giorgio Armani, it is Aqua dijo. I do like Profumo and Profundo and Absolute far better than that, but still nonetheless. Okay. Oh, I almost didn't see this one. Nothing, and I mean nothing, to me says bold, daring, different. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the way this fragrance does. And I've said it 1,000 times, to quote the great rapper Slim Thug, don't bore her, Dior her. And it is Dior's Fahrenheit. Now I know they got, 32 and Aqua and all those other versions of Fahrenheit that are good, but it's something about this fragrance to me that is polarizing. And to me, it's iconic and nostalgic, definitely nostalgic, because this is an old bottle. I've had this bottle since the early 2000s. I love it. I love it, and I haven't worn it in a while. And the levels on it is right here. This is one of those fragrances that most people can't stand, but there's a few of us that absolutely love it, and it's the same way with women. I've had women stop me and say, man, what are you wearing? What are you wearing? This smells so good. And then I tell them it's Dior's Fahrenheit. My father wore that. My so-and-so wore that. And then there's some that are like, what are you wearing? And I'm like, and it was like, I don't like that. That's okay. It's not for everybody, but it's for Trey. This right here, again, it just takes me back to, a place in time. Gas was 90-something cent, and $1 menu was actually $1. It's just a simpler time in life, man. Just a simpler time in life. Fresh out of high school, late teens, early 20s, just trying to figure out life. When I smell this fragrance, that's what I'm reminded of. Just, that time period between being fresh out of high school and really coming into age in the mid-20s. That's what this reminds me of. And it's very nostalgic to me. And again, I think it's iconic. You got that violet leaf in there, and I thank Dior for being daring in making this fragrance. To me, this is a bold, daring fragrance. Far more bold and daring than anything that they've put out in recent years. Far more bold and daring, in my opinion, than Sauvage, which should have made this list, for iconic sakes, because it's a fragrance that you can't talk about fragrances and not hear somebody say something about some Savage. And I'm like, you mean Sauvage? Yeah, that one. But I prefer Fahrenheit over Savage or Sauvage. That violet leaf gets me, man. I like it. These next three, they gonna speak for themselves. From the house of Calvin Klein, and this fragrance I think will be around for an eternity, and it is Calvin Klein's Eternity. If you live in the Southeast and you don't have this in your collection, I should throw this bottle at bam and hit you. Knock it off. I mean, you call yourself a collector, you call yourself a frag head, knock it off. If you ain't got this in your collection, I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? Springtime is upon us. We are almost in the middle of April. Seems like it just started, but we are in what, day 10, day 11 of April. Temperatures are fixing to get nice. Nothing says green, clean, white tee, white Forces, white K-Swiss, whatever white sneaker you gonna put on with your khaki shorts and your V-neck tee, or your blue jeans and your nice white sneakers and your pretty t-shirt, or your nice polo style shirt, then this is so fresh and so clean. Make a great song. But nonetheless, man, it's just got it. It's to me, this is just lighthearted, effervescent, easy to wear goodness. I absolutely love this fragrance. And oh, it's classic and iconic and nostalgic. It's all of that. It is that classic green scent to me. And Banana Republic has fragrances that smell like this. A lot of companies have fragrances that smell like this. Gucci Guilty to me has the same vibe, and they all came after this bad boy. It's that, I mean, and if you look at the juice on this, and then look at the fresh, clean, green fragrances that have this same, oh, that's just good. Clean, sweet goodness is what this is, man. This is just like, man. I mean, you know, nostalgia. It reminds me of summer school where I met my two brothers, my two closest friends, the two people that are probably closest to me on this planet than anybody, Derek Harris and Marvell Allen, aka Montalban and Vale. Those are my boys, those are my brothers. We've been rocking since 91. And this just takes me back to being knuckleheads and being in summer school, meeting those two guys, because we all went to 3 different high schools. We met in summer school, but the nostalgia of this fragrance just takes me back to a young Trey scent. You know, just trying to be as fly as I could be, as fresh as I could be back then, making sure the hair was on point, everything was as on point as it could be for a guy that's in his early teens with no money. So, but this fragrance just reminds me of that time period, that era. So it's a nostalgic fragrance. And again, that classic, fresh, clean, green scent to me was trend-setting. And I think this fragrance is nostalgic and iconic. From the house of Calvin Klein, Eternity. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna stand on it. I think Calvin Klein is probably the best designer house, period. I said what I said. Think about it. You got Reveal. You got Eternity. You got Obsession. You got Escape. And you got this next one. It probably has more flankers than any fragrance in the world. CK1. This is nostalgia in a bottle and iconicness in a bottle. Why is this fragrance nostalgic? Again, it takes me back to about 92, 93 when everybody wanted to wear this, at least at my high school. Everybody wanted to wear this, the girls and the guys, because it was unisex. When CK1 came out, it was just groundbreaking. It was just groundbreaking. A unisex fragrance is for guys and girls. And about that time, everybody was wearing Calvin Klein jeans. At my school, it was the Calvin Klein jeans, the Tommy Hilfiger jeans, with the Calvin Klein sweater and the Calvin Klein fragrance and duck boots, is what we call them, duck boots or rain boots or whatever. If you had that on, you was dripping. He was dripping all the Car Noir jeans, but you get it. But this takes me back to that time period, and everybody wanted this fragrance from the house of Calvin Klein. It is CK1, and this fragrance is so aquatic, so metallic, and so warm and inviting, but at the same time, it's fresh and easy. I don't ever plan to be without this in my collection. And you see this big old 6.7 ounce bottle. I purchased this with a hand lotion as well. And I wish I could find some more of these because that lotion in here was amazing. It really just tripled the life of the fragrance, and it smelled amazing for like $18. I remember they had about 6 of them on the shelf, and I got to flipping, and ooh, that was 32, ooh, 32, ooh, 28, ooh, 28, ooh, $15. So I scooped it up. I went back, that was like in the middle of the week. This is the truth. I went back to TJ Maxx like Friday. This was like on a Wednesday. I went back like Friday, every one of them was gone. Somebody had bought every single bottle of this. When I tell you that there are people out there that only wear one fragrance, and this is the fragrance that a lot of them choose to wear. Man, CK1, iconic. And think about the entire line of CK1 summers. Think about the flankers that CK has produced with this one. I'm telling you, in my opinion, Calvin Klein is the absolute GOAT of designer fragrances, at least low-end designer fragrances, because I mean they've had hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. Last but not least, this fragrance to me, I'm gonna give a few honorable mentions too. Adidas Moves could have made this list as well. Because there's somebody watching this and they're going, yo, I used to wear that Adidas Moves from middle school. It was something about transitioning from middle school to high school that Adidas Moves hit for a lot of people. It seems like I was either fixing to graduate or already out of high school when that Adidas Moves came out. But nonetheless, I had to have it. And it was one of those fragrances that you could get at Walmart and Kmart, but it smelled so good. Or at least we thought it did at that time period. Also, Wings for Men could have made this list as well. Escape from Calvin Klein could have made this nostalgic list. Hugo Boss Elements is another one. Some of y'all may remember that one. Just tons of fragrances could have made this list for nostalgia. This one, again, I think is nostalgic and iconic, at least for us guys below the Mason-Dixon in the Southeast. This is a fragrance that all of us keep in our collection because it stands up in the summertime. And it is from the house of Azzaro. And it is Azzaro's Chrome. Long before Wanted by Night, Most Wanted Parfum, any of that. Before any of that, it was this one. And it is the OG Chrome. And Chrome has some pretty good flankers. Some things that I'm looking to add to my collection is Chrome Extreme and Chrome Parfum. I have Intense. I'm looking to add Extreme, and I have Aqua. I have Aqua and Pure and Intense. I'm looking to add Parfum. Yes, Parfum and Extreme. Those are two that I'm looking to add. And maybe even the, South Pole or whatever. But this right here is one of those fragrances that if you get on your shirt, it's gonna be on there for 5 or 6 days, easily. And it does not take a lot, and it is there. It is. Jupe is another one that could have made this list if I did not mention that. Jupe is a nostalgic and classic fragrance. A lot of people hate it, but I love it. But anyway. But this aquatic-y, metallic-y, masculine, strong, rude, obnoxious beast of a fragrance. I love it. It is one that gets compliments. As a matter of fact, I think this is what I wore on my wedding day because I wanted something that I didn't have to continue to spray on. I wanted something that I liked and, that I knew was going to be crowd pleasing because it was an unseasonably cool September day, the day that I got married. And that week a cold front came through, which made the wedding pleasant, but where it was normally 90 degrees, I think it was about 70. So it was a big change. But nonetheless, it was, by the time we went on our honeymoon and got back, it was in the 90s. But, nonetheless, from the house of Azzaro, it is Chrome. This fragrance to me is both iconic and nostalgic because it's that metally mentally vibing. It's definitely nostalgic for me because it takes me back to, again, being out of high school, you know, working a real job like a real man, working 50, 60 hours a week at the manufacturing plant I used to work at, and the people that I met. It just brings back good memories of nostalgia for me. I've went through 2 or 3 bottles of Chrome, and this is one I would love to always have in my collection. Yeah, and I hope when my time to go comes many, many years from now, I hope somebody puts a little bottle of Chrome in my little jacket pocket. But we ain't gonna talk about that because I'm gonna be here another 65 years. Anyway, now that we got that out the way, man, listen, I enjoy doing this video. This is the type of videos that I enjoy. A lot of reviewers are doing them anymore, you know, but it's what I like. It's what I enjoy. Thank you all for sitting here. Always remember to try to support your smaller channels. We need the support. Guys like Sam Broom, guys like Keith Crook, you know, Keith, you know, The Fragrant Life. We need your support, you know. I mean, we put our heart and soul into this just like everybody else does. So, you know, it helps. Watch the ads, that helps as well. But yeah, appreciate you. Manuel from Manuel's House of Aromas. Manuel is a great guy. You remember I visited Manuel when I was in Texas. Manuel is a great guy. He has a great channel. And you guys are missing out if you're not watching any of Manny's videos. So go give Manny some love, some support, and you know, yeah. When you're watching, tell them you're here because Trey sent you. All right, go show them guys some love and some support. I'm finna get off of here. I've worked a long day. It's been a busy day. I'm ready to edit this video and crash and watch a little TV. And I don't know if you can tell by me squirming, my back is hurting. So I'm fixing to get off this chair, relax, and all of that stuff, man. Listen, I love you all, and I really appreciate you all, and may God bless you all for being the best part of this channel. Always be active in the comment section. I know you got some iconic fragrances, and I know you got some nostalgic fragrances. Please be sure to let me know what you got. And I will see you the next go around, guys. God bless you all. Love you all, man. Peace. Oh, and thank you for returning to the scene of the crime. You thought I forgot, didn't you?